technically true based on what I've heard and what I know, that he didn't tell her not to run. But what she didn't say was that he sent her a poll privately, discreetly, and it had information in it. And it showed her down 20 points to Jon Ossoff. And so in politics, when you want to send a message to someone that you like or that has been an ally, you don't embarrass them publicly. You privately send them information and show them what the reality is. And so I think it's true that he didn't tell her not to run, but it's also true that he did her a big favor, which is to show her information that a candidacy statewide in Georgia for her would have been a disaster.
Congresswoman, thank you for being here.
So some pretty big news that I don't think any of us were expecting here tonight. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has publicly been in a pretty massive feud with President Trump as of late, and has become something of a BFF to Thomas Massie, has mysteriously and quite abruptly resigned from Congress tonight, effective January 5th, 2026. And yes, that is real. Out of nowhere, she just resigned. And although we could sit here and just say it's a win for Trump and leave it at that, let's be honest, and I think you guys would agree, this is a little strange, and something deeper, in my opinion, is going on here. That, frankly, a lot of her right-wing defenders in the past few months who have been trying to argue, no, she's not a rhino. No, she's not just grandstanding because she's scorned against Trump. She's genuinely standing up for principled conservative MAGA values as to what exactly happened here. Because I think this does verify the theory that she scorned over something or she got blackmailed, there's a scandal, and essentially now she's just running away, bashing Trump on the way out. Much, by the way, like we've seen a lot of other figures around the Trump movement do, and then like something else comes out later, or whatever's going on here, right? Because here's the thing. If she's going to sit here and argue that she was always fighting for principled MAGA, right? And she's not this disloyal rhino who's just trying to suck up to the liberals, then you would think you would stay in office, right? Or at least try to. If you're really fighting for the people and the issues you care about, and nothing else strange is happening here, then okay, fine. It would be one thing to announce you won't run for re-election because you don't think you can win the primary. Or, like Thomas Massie, announce you're going to go down fighting, right? President Trump, you're going to have to take me out electorally because I'm not going to waver on my principles. But Marjorie did the opposite. Just mysteriously resigned effective a few weeks from now. Won't even finish out the term. And so to me, and as we'll kind of watch this video that comes off like a hostage situation and read the resignation letter, if I were to guess, something's going on behind the scenes. Okay, there has to have been some type of maybe blackmail or scandal that was going to come out against her. And perhaps that's why she turned on Trump and then mysteriously resigned. Or who knows? Maybe she's ready to take a TV position. That's why it's starting January 5th. A lot of people have speculated she's going to be the new host on The View, which she was recently on. Could see that as well. I don't exactly know. But a huge part of me reads this and says, there's no way this is organic. And again, I wonder if the pro-Marjorie people care to explain exactly what's happening here or their justification. Is it Israel? Is Israel forcing her to resign, guys? I don't know. But that said, guys, all right, we'll get into it. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. That's the best way to support our work. It also ensures that you can stay up to date with all the latest news and coverage, although I'm sure we'll at least get a few unsubscribes on this video because they're like, no, Marjorie is genuinely fighting for, what we're supposed to believe in. Trump is the one who sold out. Okay, well, that said, we'll get into this. But I first want you to take a listen to at least a part of her resignation video, because again, I say, this whole thing is extremely strange, and maybe you'll notice what I'm noticing.
Hi, everyone. I've always represented the common American man and woman as a member of the House of Representatives, which is why I've always been despised in Washington, D.C., and just never fit in. Americans are used by the political industrial complex of both political parties, election cycle after election cycle, in order to elect whichever side can convince Americans to hate the other side more. And the results are always the same. No matter which way the political pendulum swings, Republican or Democrat, nothing ever gets better for the common American man or woman. The debt goes higher, corporate and global interests remain Washington's sweethearts, American jobs continue to be replaced, whether it's by illegal labor or legal labor by visas or just shipped overseas. Small businesses continue to be swallowed by big corporations. Americans' hard-earned tax dollars always fund foreign wars, foreign aid, and foreign interest, and the spending power of the dollar continues to decline. The average American family can no longer survive on a single breadwinner's income, as both parents have to work in order to simply survive. And today, many in my children's generation feel hopeless for their future and don't think they will ever realize the American dream.
I mean, yeah, Marjorie, some of the things you mentioned are certainly true. Those are real concerns. I'd point out some of the concerns are ones that the Trump administration is trying to address while you constantly obstruct and grandstand against them. The foreign labor question being a prime example. I would further point out your stance on foreign labor is not even consistent with what you said about this just a few weeks ago. We'll talk more about that in a second. But okay, all of that aside, all of the issues she spoke about, and basically what she's trying to argue is that the system is broken, it can't be fixed. Okay, padded with some centrist rhetoric about dividing Americans and how nothing ever changes, nothing ever happens. If that's all true, then why wouldn't you stay and fight for it? Why are you just leaving politics then? Like, you see, it doesn't really make sense. At least if you care about these issues for Americans, stay and advocate for them. But that's not what you're about to do. You're about to go take either a media job or who knows, maybe work as a private lobbyist or something, because that's going to obviously better America so much. It's also strange. And you further notice that, it's not even like a put together video. She doesn't have her staff put together a compilation or anything like that. She's sitting in her house, recording on her cell phone, and you can clearly see, like, reading a paper off the bottom. They don't even have a proper teleprompter in here. For a congresswoman of notable size, right? So, in other words, this is a video they put together in like 2 seconds. It wasn't, like, again, as I ask here, what exactly is going on here? It is very strange. Anyways, here is the full statement. We'll read from some of this just so you can get an idea, because I'm not going to play the full 10 minutes, but you can see, right? The results are always the same, no matter which way the political pendulum swings, Republican or Democrat. Nothing ever gets better for the common American man or woman. So you see what's going on? I'm going to identify as an independent now. Yeah, how many times have we seen that arc before? But no, I'm sure she's being totally principled about it, right? Sure. The debt goes higher. Okay, fair enough. Corporate and global interests remain Washington's sweethearts. Okay, American jobs get, replaced by illegal or foreign labor or visas, etc. But, okay, I ran for Congress in 2020 and have fought every single day believing that making America great again meant America first. I have one of the most conservative voting records in Congress, defending the First, Second Amendment, unborn babies because I believe God creates life, strong, safe borders. I fought against COVID, tyrannical insanity, and mandated mass vaccinations, and I've never voted to fund foreign wars. Okay, fair enough, Marjorie. Why are you just leaving Congress? It doesn't make sense, right? However, with almost 1 year into our majority, the legislature has been mostly sidelined. We endured an 8-week shutdown, wrongly resulting in the House not working for the entire time. And we are entering campaign season, which means all courage leaves and only safe campaign re-election mode is turned on. During the longest shutdown in our nation's history, I raged against my own speaker and my own party for refusing to proactively work diligently to pass a plan to save American healthcare and protect Americans from outrageous, overpriced, and unaffordable health insurance policies. The House should have been in session, working every single day to fix this disaster, but instead, America was force-fed disgusting political drama once again from both sides of the aisle. Well, first of all, Marjorie, it was never the job of the House. I know you pretend like you don't know how your own job works, but the House already passed the CR. The negotiations were going on in the Senate. There was actually no point at all to get House Republicans and Democrats to negotiate, because even if they came together on an agreement, that still wouldn't pass the Senate necessarily because of the filibusters. I don't even know what you're talking about. But I want everyone to remember, by the way, the principled conservative fighter, what she was advocating for was not really presenting any alternative solution to the subsidies, which I've brought up we should. And I like Trump's idea of transitioning off of that using HSA accounts. No, what Marjorie was advocating for straight up was to, of course, side with the Democrats and keep the failed Obamacare tax subsidies in place. So while she's going to sit here and pretend like a conservative fighter, let us not forget, this is the entire argument she was making. I want to defend Obamacare because I'm such a strong, authentic, principled conservative.
Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has shocked the world with a statement about wanting to do what Democrats want to do in Congress. So what I'm referring to is the effort by congressional Democrats to extend the subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. Without those subsidies, without the extension of those subsidies, premiums for many Americans are set to double. And shockingly, and I say shockingly because this is uncharacteristic of a Republican lawmaker, Marjorie Taylor Greene is worried about that and wants to do something about it. Cenk.
Guys, this is a huge story. Real populism might have started today because this is not about Epstein files. She agreed with Democrats before on that. We're getting some tiny amount of agreement on Israel. Said this is on economic issues. She's defending Obamacare.
No, she's not defending Obamacare.
No, in a sense, she is. She is. No. So we're going to give you all the details. So you're going to see, oh, she takes shots at this and that. There's plenty we don't agree on. But the very core of it is her agreeing with Democrats on making sure that Obamacare is not messed with by the Republicans.
Pretty interesting, by the way, as of late, the people who have constantly been praising Marjorie Taylor Greene, like for instance, TYT, the Young Turks, if you've seen, they become basically her biggest fans. She's running on CNN, she's on The View, you know. But I'm sure, again, this is completely authentic, and this is only because she went out against AIPAC, and she's definitely not just sucking up to liberals. Okay, sure, we'll address that in a second, but let's keep reading this statement, you know. My bills, which reflect many of President Trump's executive orders, like calling for a new census, all this stuff, making English the official language, all of that, the speaker never brings them to the floor for a vote. Now, on that, by the way, what you did earlier this year before you completely lost your mind, Marjorie, I totally agree. But my question there would be, why wouldn't you stay in Congress, at least for the rest of the term, and try to fight? Or if you are trying to enshrine President Trump's executive orders, why don't you show some loyalty instead of like losing your mind like you did the past few months? You know, but she does go on here to say that loyalty should be a two-way street and we should be able to vote our conscience and represent our district's interests because our job title is literally representative. America first should mean America first and only Americans first, with no other foreign country ever being attached to America first in the halls of our government. So, of course, this is the defense that you're going to hear. And, you know, the same is said about Thomas Massie, which is the only reason you could possibly be angry at them is not because, for instance, Thomas Massie voted against President Trump's immigration agenda. No, it's only because of Israel, right? That's what they always say. Because Marjorie Taylor Greene, for instance, refuses to take money from AIPAC and doesn't vote to fund Israel. That's the only reason, right? All you neocons, you're all bought out, you're all Zionists, etc.
Israel is the only country I know of that has some sort of incredible control over nearly every single one of my colleagues.
How did you find yourself in this place? Because you stopped voting for funding for the Israel war?
Yeah, it was easy for me. I'm a business owner. If you're an Israeli citizen, you have government-funded healthcare and you have government-funded college. If they're doing so great and they're funding healthcare and college, why is dead broke America having to spend $3.8 billion? I've turned radically and unapologetically for America, just flat out for America. I'm like, I'm sorry, we don't have time to fund what you're doing. No, we don't.
And I already know that those criticisms are coming, right? We're about to get them under the comment section of this very video. You're getting paid by Israel to attack Marjorie Taylor Greene. You're getting the $7,000. Don't you know Trump is a Zionist? You're with Trump? Actually, it has nothing to do with that. What if I told you I actually respect Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie and Matt Gaetz before that for not taking AIPAC money? I actually think it is problematic that foreign lobbies have so much outsized influence, or any influence, frankly, in the American political system. Yeah, I think that's an issue, right? I respect her votes on foreign aid. I think they are actually principled. But there are actually other issues outside of Israel. And there's a certain crowd of people on the right that is so fixated that's all they can see, right? They will literally defend Thomas Massie as he votes against Donald Trump's immigration agenda, which I've said is the most important thing, because he doesn't take money from AIPAC. But of course, this is the problem. Okay, this is what happens when the quote unquote far right, but I would almost call like the quasi left essentially in a sense, right? Goes so far and gets so obsessed with the Israel issue, they do a little horseshoe with the actual Palestine activists, right? And there's a reason why I've always been critical of the Palestine side. And even if I'm like not the biggest like super pro-Israel person out there, I'm never going to ally with those people. And I understand a lot of the flaws in their arguments. Why is that? Because fundamentally, right, it's important to point out the Palestine activists, even if you agree with their cause, because you're not the biggest Israel person, whatever, are a bunch of leftists, right? Like that is a fundamentally communist movement, as by the way, has always been the case with anti-war protests in American history, starting all the way back with Vietnam, okay? These people chant globalized intifada for a reason. They vote for Zoran Mamdani for a reason, right? And there's a certain faction on the right who supports Marjorie, who supports MTG, that again, does that horseshoe where they get so close to the Palestine activists that they just straight up become leftists. And this is what you see, right? You see some of these characters, right? Like Sneeko, for instance, he just is praising constantly Zoran Mamdani because he's like, oh, you know, I'm against Israel, I'm a Muslim, so let me just abandon being quote unquote right wing and go to the left, right? And I would argue with Marjorie, this is a prime example of the same exact thing, right? You think you're being America first. You're staying principled in that camp, but slowly you're drifting further and further. And it's very telling, right? Why is, for instance, TYT, a progressive left-wing network, constantly praising her so freaking much when you look at their content? The answer is very simple, because she's like slowly morphing into one of them. And this is what happens when you're with your brain, right? When you become like Israel obsessed, right? On the right wing, you know? So it's kind of honestly annoying too, because right now the right wing is basically a divide between are you an Israel obsessed neocon or are you an Israel obsessed Palestine activist? And I'm like, actually, I'm neither. I'm America first, but I also, by the way, give Trump massive credit for the Gaza peace plan, which neither, especially the Palestine side, just doesn't want to do, right? Marjorie, did you even give him credit for it? I didn't really see you say much, but you're still talking to this day about Israel, right? But also, I know, hot take, to me, that's not the most important issue. To me, I want deportations, right? I think immigration is a top issue in our country, not some foreign country, not Israel. Even if they do things you don't like, they're not the biggest issue, you know? But when people get so in the tunnel vision, this is all they can see. And I would argue to a degree that's the Marjorie defenders, and maybe that's Marjorie herself. A big kind of, telling point for me on this was what she recently had to say just back in October about the issue of immigration. And this is immediately when those light bulbs went off, right? Oh, it's not just about Israel. It's not just because she's not taking money from AIPAC. No, as I said, this is the horseshoe where you go so crazy as a far right, quote unquote, person on the Israel thing, you just straight up become a leftist. Because take a listen to what she now has to say on immigration.
As a conservative and as a business owner in the construction industry and as a realist, I can say we have to do something about labor, and that needs to be a smarter plan than just rounding up every single person and deporting them just like that. Right. So, and I'm going to get pushback on that, but it's, yeah. I'm just living in reality from here on out.
Yeah.
And if anybody's mad at me for saying the truth, then I'm sorry.
Yeah. See exactly what I'm talking about. There you just heard Marjorie Taylor Greene. Remember, principled, real MAGA America first, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Just a month before resigning from Congress, talking about how foreign labor is replacing American jobs and opportunities and we need to stop it. Just going on a podcast and outwardly opposing the Trump deportation policy, right? Basically saying, oh, as a former owner of a construction company, which she was, and I guess she's admitting she was also like a greedy fat cat on this question. We need a better solution than just deporting all the illegal laborers. Why exactly is that? Oh, what are you calling for, by the way? Amnesty? A temporary pause on raiding construction sites or something? I thought you just cared about opportunities for Americans. That's what you just said tonight. A month before, you were coming out against the deportations. So for me, that was the moment where the light bulbs went off and I knew exactly what I was watching, right? And this is the logical arc again, by the way. When you become so obsessed with that issue that you side with the Palestine activists who are the communists, eventually you're just going to morph into becoming just like them, right? Because this is the same thing they say. Guess what AOC is, Marjorie Taylor Greene? Against Israel and against deportations. And by the way, in favor of keeping the Obamacare tax subsidies, if you want to talk about some like economic issue. Oh, notice how there's starting to be this overlap here, right? Because I genuinely gave her some benefit of the doubt for a while. I was like, okay, you know, she doesn't want to take money from AIPAC. I respect that, actually. But then suddenly you notice it no longer becomes about AIPAC. And ladies and gentlemen, we've seen this story over and over again, have we not, right? It's, by the way, you look at some of the crowd, you know, some of you know who I'm talking about right now, by the way, in the online right wing who are trying to make these like Israel conspiracies for the Charlie Kirk assassination. They're trying to say Israel killed Charlie Kirk. And you notice how conveniently, in this theme we keep on talking about, that very dialogue takes the focus, the blame, the conversation away from the radical, violent communist left who, first of all, did do it, and secondly, needs to be shut down in this country, right? Through RICO, through charges. We have to be pushing the Trump administration full steam ahead on that. And what are these like Israel obsessed, like quote unquote, we're so far right, they claim. I don't really even see them as that. I see them as left. But okay, these like far right people trying to spread down your throats. No, guys, it wasn't actually the radical, violent left who did this. It was Israel. Take your eyes off the left. Notice how every single time these people just make common cause with the left. Why is that? Because they're either useful idiots or they just are, you know, on that side, right? Why do you think it is that Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's very interesting, right? What interviews is she taking as of late? Oh, she's a real grassroots MAGA America First. Okay, is she going on like, you know, harder, more, you know, conservative shows? No, she's going on The View, Young Turks, CNN. The speculation currently, she's going to be the new host of The View. It's like, if you're really the one fighting for us, why exactly are you sucking up to that side? Yeah, I don't think that's the case. And again, I say, I don't think that this resignation came out of nowhere. Or it's just like a genuinely principled thing, right? The rumor that we had heard for many months going back is that essentially Marjorie Taylor Greene wanted to run for Senate in the state of Georgia. The Trump team essentially told her no. But based off the premise she's not electable, which by the way, she's not. And I think in retrospect, you can tell was probably a good idea to not get behind Marjorie. But the rumor has it that like ever since that happened, which was earlier sometime this year, she's just completely been scorned. And then, as you could tell, right, suddenly did this pivot where she's like the biggest anti-Trump obstructionist. And then suddenly now she's resigning from office. Although, again, at the same time, the abrupt nature of it also makes me believe, oh, maybe she turned against Trump because, again, there's like a scandal brewing and she's getting out of Congress to get that off her back. And so that thing can kind of just disappear. I don't know. But this is all to say, right? I don't think any of it was organic. And again, to her supporters who are like, no, you know, it's only because she was calling out Israel. She's our hero, whatever. Okay, fine. Explain to me why she's mysteriously resigning, you know? And by the way, if she takes a contributorship job at like CNN or The View or something, which is the most likely outcome, are you going to sit there and defend her, right? I guess they will. Because as we said, right, these Israel-obsessed right-wingers basically in the end always end up becoming leftists, you know? We just want to put America first. Okay, yeah, I agree. So let's also, because the Palestine, we take all of our advice from the Palestine activists. So the Palestine activists said, stop deporting people. Oh, no, okay, stop deporting people. Okay, I'm conservative, though, by the way. No, you're not. See? So just very important to keep an eye on. But anyways, that said, guys, there you essentially have tonight's news. Again, Marjorie out of Congress. We won't have to deal with her grandstanding anymore very soon here. All right, let me know your thoughts. Be sure to leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And until next time, God bless and peace.